Good day, everyone. So now I will discuss to you the basics of the corporation or the accounting for corporation. So based on its definition, corporation is an artificial being created by operation of law, having the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. Now again, corporation is an artificial being. Ibig sabihin, kapag sinabi nating artificial being, it is a juridical person. Juridical person. So, hindi siya natural person, but juridical person. Kapag sinabing juridical person, separate and distinct from its officers or members. So, etong si corporation can sue and be sued. So, ibig sabihin yan, pwede siyang mag-file ng kaso and pwede din siyang kasuhan. So again, yung corporation yung kakasuhan ha, hindi yung mga officers and members. So kung si ABC Corporation is kinasuhan siya ni Juan de la Cruz, siya lang yung kakasuhan. Likewise, pwede din si Juan de la Cruz kakasuhan siya ni ABC Corporation. So again, it is separate and distinct from its officers or members. So next is it is created by operation of law. So kung mareremember pa natin yung partnership can be formed by means of oral agreement or verbal agreement or by mere consent of the partners. So magfo-form na yung partnership. So dito sa corporation, created siya by operation of law. Ibig sabihin dapat naka-register talaga ito sa tinatawag nating registered to Securities and Exchange Commission. Kasi nga, since nire-recognize siya ng state as a person, as a juridical person, so dapat registered siya sa Securities and Exchange Commission since it is created by operation of law. Again, hindi pwede makreate itong si corporation by just mere agreement by the or mere agreement of the members or the shareholders. So third is having the rights of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. So ang corporation daw is meron siyang rights of succession. Kapag sinabi natin rights of succession, pwede siyang ipamana or pwede siyang yung ownership is pwedeng ilipat sa mga years ng ng corporation or yung yung shareholders, yung ownership niya pwedeng ilipat ano. So 'di ba sa sa partnership kapag nagkaroon ng change in structure, nagdi-dissolve agad yung partnership. So dito sa corporation, pwede siyang pwedeng may mag-succeed ng a business. So, lahat ng yung powers, yung attributes, ang properties, or anything na rights ng corporation is pwede siyang i-succeed. So, the theory of, or the theories, yung mga definitions, yung mga terminologies, iiwan ko na sa inyo kasi madali lang naman yun. Ifa-familiarize nyo lang. So, proceed tayo dito sa accounting for share capital transaction. So, kung maalala nyo, yung ating basic accounting equation ni asset na asset is equal to liability plus equity. Ito din yung ginagamit natin for partnership. So, meron lang tayong capital accounts per partner. And then for corporation, ang gagamitin natin dito sa equity section, or ang tawag natin sa equity section is shareholders equity. Again, we have the same asset is equal to liability plus shareholders equity. So, itong shareholders equity, meron ito siyang component. So, meron tayong dalawang components ng shareholders equity or SHE. Yung tawag natin dyan. The share capital and the retained earnings. So, ito si share capital, marami itong under sa kanya. Marami ibig sabihin itong share capital. But basically, share capital refers to the maximum amount fixed by the corporate charter or the articles of incorporation to be subscribed and paid in by the shareholders. So, ito share capital, ito yung fixed amount na pwede i-subscribed and bayaran ng mga shareholders. So, para makakuha sila ng shares sa corporation, they can pay either in money or in property. Pwede din by their labor or service at the organization of the corporation. So again, itong share capital is the contribution or yung binayaran ng or yung pwedeng bayaran sa pagkuha ng shares ng isang shareholder. Again, it could be in money, property, labor, or services. The other one is the retained earnings. So, itong retained earnings, yung other term nito is the accumulated profits and losses reserve. So, kapag sinabing retained earnings, it is appropriated for plant expansion, purchase of treasury shares. So, basically, itong retained earnings, lahat ng income and losses ng corporation is dito natin yan nilalagay sa retained earnings. So, some portion of our retained earnings is meron tayong ina-appropriate. So, appropriated and unappropriated. So, kapag sinabing retained earnings appropriated, inilaan siya for plant expansion, for purchase of any asset or PPE. So, appropriated siya. So, kapag hindi naman siya gagamitin or free to use yung ating retained earnings, ang tawag sa kanya is unappropriated. Now, under share capital, we have two classes. So, we have the ordinary shares and the preference shares. So, kapag sinabi nating ordinary share, it has the same rights and privileges and have no preference over the other. So, kapag isang shares lang yung ini-issue ng corporation, ibig sabihin, ordinary shares yung ini-issue niya. Pero pag merong dalawang klase, so, ito yun, ordinary shares and preference shares. Yung ordinary shares, yung normal lang na shares. Pero dito sa preference shares natin, meron siyang preference over the ordinary shares. So, meron siyang preference as to dividends and meron din siyang preference as to assets. So, ano ibig sabihin yan? So, kung maalala nyo pa, sa partnership, kapag meron tayong kapag merong income, dinidistribute natin yan sa mga partners. Pero dito sa corporation, yung income ng corporation is hindi natin yan dinidistribute sa mga shareholders agad. So, meron tayong tinatawag na dividends. So, itong dividends na to, ito yung dinidistribute or dinideclare ng mga board of directors as income ng mga shareholders. So, merong preference itong si preference share over kay ordinary shares kasi nga mas unang nabibigyan ng dividends itong si preference share. So for example, sinabi sa problem, yung preference shares is 10%. So ang 10% ng dividends mapupunta muna kay preference shares or yung shareholder na may preference shares, and then yung sobra, yung 90% is paghahatian na ng ni ordinary shares and the preference shares. So again, meron siyang preference over the ordinary shares as to dividends. As to assets naman, from the time na gusto nang mag-liquidate ni corporation, so ang unang mabibigyan ng portion or may portion talaga na fix itong si preference shares bago pa mabigyan si ordinary shares. Next is itong si share capital. Meron siyang, yung classification niya, it could be par value share or no par value share. Kapag sinabi nating par value share, meron siyang nominal value or stated value. So, makikita natin yan, yung value niya sa share certificate. So, yung nasa certificate is nakalagay yung number of shares niya. For example, 10,000 shares at 5 peso per share. So, kung ano yung nakalagay sa kanyang share certificate or stock certificate, yun yung kanyang par value or yung stated value. Dito naman sa no par value share, so yung share natin has no par or nominal value printed on the share certificate. So, ibig sabihin walang nakalagay na amount. So, eto lang, 10,000 shares. So, paano nila yan ibebenta kung wala tayong fixed amount or kung wala tayong par value share per share? So, pwede siyang ibenta at the amount prescribed in the Articles of Incorporation or kung ano yung fixed amount na napag-usapan ng mga board of directors or amount approved by the majority of the shareholders. So now, in recording for share capital transactions, meron tayong dalawang method na ginagamit. So, meron tayong memorandum entry method and meron tayong tinatawag na journal entry method. So, for example, ito yung transaction natin. Authorized to issue or the corporation was authorized to issue 5,000 preference shares at 10 peso par value and 10,000 ordinary shares at 5 peso par value. So under the memorandum entry method, yung magiging entry natin dyan for this transaction is kokopyahin lang natin yan. Authorized to issue 5,000 preference share at 10 peso par value and 10,000 ordinary share at 5 peso par value. So, kopyahin nyo lang yan under sa memorandum entry method. Under naman sa journal entry method, yung magiging entry natin for this transaction is, debit lang natin yung unissued share capital and dash preference share. Okay, so ganito yung magiging entry niya. Debit natin unissued share capital, preference share. So magkano ba yan? 5,000 multiply natin by 10 pesos. So 5,000 times 10, that is 50,000 pesos. And then yung partner niya, authorized share capital, preference share, 50,000. And then for the ordinary share, 10,000 shares times 5 peso par. So again, that is 50,000 pesos. So ito yung magiging entry natin under sa journal entry method. So kapag sinabing authorized kasi, ito lang yung maximum shares na pwedeng i-issue under preference shares, and 10,000 ordinary shares lang yung maximum na pwede i-issue ni corporation under the ordinary shares. So nakasulat ito sa Articles of Incorporation. So the next transaction is the subscription. So kapag sinabing subscription or subscribe share capital, this represents the amount of shares which have been subscribed but not yet fully paid. So nag-subscribe yung isang shareholder o yung isang investor pero hindi pa niya fully nababayaran. So again, yung maximum amount na natin for preference share is 5,000, and then for ordinary share is 10,000. Pwede naman itong mag-increase itong authorized share, pero dapat i-amend nila yung kanilang Articles of Incorporation. Now, the next transaction is subscribed 2,000 preference shares and 5,000 ordinary shares. So again, under memorandum method and journal entry method, we have the same entry. So since subscription pa lang siya, hindi pa siya nababayaran, hindi pa siya na-fully paid, yung magiging entry natin dyan is magdi-debit tayo ng subscription receivable dash PS or preference share, and then credit another debit ng subscription receivable ordinary shares, and then credit tayo ng subscribed share capital PS and subscribed share capital OS. So yung amount natin, again, 2,000 of the preference share times 10. So 2,000 times 10, that is 20,000. So 20,000 din yun dito. Subscribed share capital. So share capital na siya, but again, subscribe pa. Kapag na fully paid na yan, tatanggalin na natin mamaya itong word na subscribe. Next, for the ordinary shares, 5,000 times 5, that is 25,000. So, yan yung entry natin, again, under memo and under journal entry method. So, for example, yung next transaction natin is nagbayad na or binayaran na fully yung subscription kanina. So, kapag binayaran na, ibig sabihin makakatanggap na tayo ng cash or makakatanggap na yung corporation ng cash. Again, we are recording in behalf of the corporation. So, kanina, meron tayong yung subscription kanina is 2,000 and 5,000 na ordinary shares. So, to compute for the full payment, we debit cash, and then we credit subscribed share capital PS, subscribe share capital OS. So again, mali pala. So again, we debit cash and then we credit subscription receivable, preference share, subscription receivable, ordinary share. So yung preference share natin is 2,000 times 10, that is 20,000. And then 5,000 times 5, that is 25,000. So ibig sabihin yung cash na na-receive ng corporation is 45,000 pesos. So that is our entry for the full payment of subscription. We have another entry. Aside from this, meron tayong isa pang entry. Since yung subscription is nabayaran na, ibig sabihin, i-issue na natin or may issue na natin yung kanyang shares as well as the share certificate. So kapag ganun, 'di ba kanina yung entry natin is debit tayo ng subscription receivable and then nag-credit tayo ng subscribed share capital. So dito sa second entry natin, debit na natin yung ating subscribed share capital PS and our subscribed share capital OS. So mangyayari yan dito, yung credit na natin is share capital PS and then share capital OS. So natanggal na yung subscribed na term. So again, we have the same amount, 20,000 and 25,000, 20,000 and 25,000. That is 2,000 shares at 10 peso par value and 5,000 ordinary shares at 5 peso par value. So ito yung entry natin for this transaction. Again, this is for the memorandum entry method and the journal entry method. But take note, under journal entry method, wait, under sa journal entry method, yung mangyayari is, itong share capital, dadagdagan natin siya ng U or yung kanina, nung pag-authorize natin, di ba yung entry natin under sa journal entry method, debit tayo ng unissued share capital and then we credit authorized share capital. So dito, ganito pa din yung itsura niya. Pero under sa journal entry method, lalagyan natin dito ng unissued share capital. Again ha, under sa memorandum entry method, ito yung entry natin. Pero wala itong unissued dito. Share capital lang. Pero, under sa journal entry method, lalagyan natin ng unissued share capital para yung entry natin kanina sa authorization, di ba? Debit tayo ng unissued, credit tayo ng authorized. Ito is mababawasan kasi nga na-issue na yung portion ng ating authorized share capital. Now, what if ganito yung ating transaction? Issued 3,000 preference share at 12 peso per share and 5,000 ordinary share at 7 peso per share. So kapag ganito, kung mapapansin natin, yung amount ng ating per share is mas malaki kaysa sa par natin. Ito kasi yung fair market value na ng ating shares. So ito yung original value stated in the Articles of Incorporation and ito naman yung value sa market. So ang tawag dito is fair market value of shares. So, tag 12 pesos. And then, dito naman is 7 peso per share. So, paano yung entry natin yan? So, again, our entry, since inissued na siya, ibig sabihin, nakatanggap tayo ng pera or binayaran sa corporation. Binayaran ng investor sa corporation. So, magiging entry natin para dito, we debit cash. Okay, mamaya na natin lalagyan ng amount. Next is the share capital. ES. And the share capital OS. So again, kapag ganito, gagamitin natin always. Please take note na kapag share capital, yung nakita nyong term, ang gagamitin natin is yung at par. So that is 3,000 times 10 pesos. So 30,000. And then 5,000 times 5, that is 25,000. Pero hindi naman yan yung binayaran ng investor. Ang binayaran niya is yung 12 pesos and yung 7 peso per share. So, compute mo natin yung cash. 3,000 times 12 and then 5,000 times 7. So, 3,000 times 12 and 5,000 times 7. So, that is a total of 71,000 pesos. So, meron tayong tinatawag dito sa ating share capital. Under share capital component is the share premium. So, kapag sinabi nating share premium, ito yung amount in excess of par. Excess of par value. So, magkano ba yung excess of par? So, 12 pesos less natin yung 10, that is 2 pesos. And then, for ordinary shares, 7 less 5, that is 2 peso per share. So, another credit natin para sa excess of par is the share premium, preference share, and the share premium ordinary share. So, magkano ba yan? 2 pesos times 3,000 shares, that is 6K. And then, 2 pesos times 5,000, that is 10K. So, kung total natin ito, 30, 25, 6,000, and 10,000, that is 71,000 pesos. So, yung example natin kanina is kapag yung binayad sa atin ng shareholder is cash. Now, what if yung binigay o yung binayad in exchange of the share capital or of the shares is non-cash or non-cash consideration? So, meron tayong order of priority kung paano natin i-record yung transaction. Now, for example, ito yung ating transaction. ABC Corporation issued 1,000 shares with a par value of 50 per share in exchange of a land with a fair value of 80,000. The fair value of shares is 65 pesos per share. So, saan ba dito yung susundin natin? Yung 50 pesos na par value, yung 80,000 na fair value ng ating land, or yung fair value ng shares na 65 pesos. Now, again, sabi ko nga kanina, meron tayong tinatawag na order of priority. So, kapag ka-given yung fair value of non-cash consideration, so yun yung gagamitin natin. Fair value of non-cash consideration received. Kapag hindi ito given, so identify natin dito sa problem. Magkano yung fair value of the non-cash consideration. So, yung non-cash consideration dito is yung land. Kasi ito yung ipangbabayad in exchange of the shares. So, ang fair value ng ating non-cash consideration is 80,000. So, yan yung gagamitin natin. If in case, hindi ito binigay sa problem, next tayo, fair value of the share capital issued. So, kapag sinabing fair value of the share capital issued, ito, fair value of the shares at 65. So, multiply pa natin yan sa ilang shares. So, 1,000 shares yung na-issue. And if hindi ito given, itong dalawa, so, babalik tayo dun sa par value of the share capital issued. So, ang par value natin is at 50 pesos. So, since given naman itong number 1, yung magiging entry natin dito, debit tayo ng land. Kasi yun yung na-receive natin. 80,000. And then, we credit kasi nga binayaran na in exchange of land yung ating shares. So, credit tayo ng share capital. Again, inulit ko, kapag share capital, yung account na gagamitin nyo, always at par. So, ibig sabihin 50. So, 1,000 times 50, that is 50,000. And then, yung sobra in excess of the par is yung ating share premium. Kasi yung proceeds natin, may dalawang portion yan, the share capital and the share premium. Yung share capital, ito yung par, and yung share premium, ito yung excess over par. So, yung excess natin over par, yung difference lang nito, 80 less 50, that is 30,000 pesos. So, ito yung magiging entry natin kapag binigay si 80,000. Pero what if hindi siya binigay? So, yung magiging entry natin dito is same pa din. Pero yung amounts natin at 65. So, 65 si land. Share capital as is, 50 at par always. And then sa share premium, yung excess ng 65 and 50, that is 15,000. What if hindi ulit given si fair value of the share capital? So, next priority is the par value. So, magiging entry natin, debit tayo ng land at par 50. And then we credit share capital of 50,000. Since wala nang excess kasi nga at par tayo, diretso na share capital 50,000 pesos.